What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 136. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where we just discuss and ramble about movies. New movies that come out in streaming or in theaters. We'll break them down on these episodes. I like to break it out into two different parts. For folks that have not seen the movie, the first half will be perfect for you. We talk all about non-spoilers, about new movies. I'll give you a little bit of a plot synopsis, some initial thoughts, and whether you should watch it in theaters or maybe skip it. And then for folks that have already seen it, or maybe you're crazy and you don't even care about being spoiled, then the second part of the podcast, we start spoiling all about the new movie that we got to check out, pros and cons, best moments, best performances, and then we wrap it all up and decide after one viewing, is this movie timeless? Is it something that I can see myself rewatching various different times in the future? Before we jump into this week's episode, though, I did want to call out that the Timeless Movie Podcast is available on all platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Give us a follow, listen, subscribe, comment. I would love to interact with you guys and just talk about movies, new movies that are going to be coming out in the future, past movies. Speaking of past movies, on episode 135 of the Timeless Movie Podcast, me and my brother actually talk about the live-action remake, How to Train Your Dragon from DreamWorks. We talk a little bit about what we found very unique in the situation that this is a live-action remake. It's almost an exact copy of the movie. So what is the need of this movie? So we kind of talk a little bit about that and whether we enjoyed it more than the original. So if you're interested in that, give us a listen on episode 135. And in the comments, let us know your thoughts about the live action remake as well. All right, now let's go ahead and dive in to this week's episode in which we are talking about A24's newest movie called Materialist. This one is directed by Celine Song and it stars three great actors. You have Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans. Now, this film, I saw a trailer for it, very much felt like a kind of romantic type of a movie. I am not the biggest fan of romance. I've seen, I obviously see those types of movies. I have a couple of favorites that I've seen in the past, but it's not one that really calls out to me, but I still want to give it a shot because you never know. One of these films can become a timeless one for me or something that I can easily call out to, or it could become something that kind of sets the bar for romance movies. But other than that, there's two other big reasons why I wanted to watch this. First reason, A24. A24, as of recently, has been on the uptick for me. I saw Friendship, Bring Her Back, Warfare. All of those three movies have been hits, at least in my personal opinion. There've been a couple of misses, some movies that I just didn't enjoy so far in 2025, but I'm hoping that this one keeps the trend of having enjoyable movies come out in 2025. And then the second reason is the three actors that I mentioned before, Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal. I love all of their work. They've all had these different types of moments in movies that I've really enjoyed. So I wanted to go support them and just hope that they're able to kind of at least keep me engaged in the story that they're trying to tell. Well, I think this is a great opportunity for us to now switch over to the non-spoiler section. That way we can talk a little bit more high level about Materialists. Okay, got to check out Materialists over the weekend, and I got to say that I had a pleasant time watching this movie. It was very enjoyable. Nothing too flashy, nothing crazy. I enjoyed the three performances of Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. Each of their characters provided a very interesting and unique perspective about love and dating. And so I really enjoyed each one of their performances because, again, everyone was very different. There was also a little bit of a twist in the story that I was not expecting, and I really love it when trailers don't try to show you that information. Too many times, trailers in movies that have come out in recent years try to give you a little bit too much information. So this little twist, not anything crazy or major, but still made me invest in the story a little bit more. So again, very enjoyable story. I really liked what I saw when I checked it out over the weekend. Let me give you a little synopsis in regards to what this movie is about, in case you are interested in watching this one over the next couple of days. In Materialist, the story drops you into the life of Lucy. Lucy is played by Dakota Johnson. She is a well-known matchmaker in which she has this ability to connect two people and have them fall in love and have them either be their soulmates and eventually get married. And so she is very talented. And so you see her kind of recruiting different types of individuals. Sometimes it's men, sometimes it's women, and she's just helping them connect and find a partner. And so you get to see those kind of interactions. And then eventually she ends up having the success of a couple that gets married. And that's actually her ninth couple that has gotten married. So she gets invited to the wedding. And in that wedding, she ends up meeting this man named Harry. Harry is played by Pedro Pascal. And just on the surface, you could see that there's some type of connection, some type of chemistry between Lucy and Harry. They start kind of having this very fun conversation. And then all of a sudden, Lucy ends up seeing her ex-boyfriend at the same wedding, and his name is John. John is played by Chris Evans. And so they have a interesting interaction. And as you see the kind of story play out, you start seeing Lucy have interactions with both men, and you're essentially put in a specific spot, or really in Lucy's spot, which is the conundrum. Do you go out with and do you start having a relationship with the man that matches your criteria, matches your checklist? Or do you go with the man that maybe broke your heart before or just could not meet the expectations that you were setting just because there's just a familiar love there as well? So it kind of puts you in that specific spot. So again, a very interesting type of a theme for the movie. It's really, again, just letting you know as an audience member, what would you do? Would you choose, that kind of a man or woman that makes you feel a certain type of way because they have either something that you're looking for, an intangible, or would you go with the person that you just feel most comfortable with, that you feel like, in no matter what situation, you both can get through it? So again, that's kind of like the theming of the movie, of at least what I got out of it. Still a very enjoyable and fun time. Some comedic moments that were in the movie, not full comedy, but at least some things to make you laugh. Overall, in my opinion, if you enjoy these types of movies in regards to romance and in regards to love and dating, and if you're also a big fan of Celine Song and her past movie, Past Lives, I would highly recommend you guys check this one out in theaters. I think you'll enjoy it. Maybe you'll find it even more enjoyable than her prior movie. If you're not a big fan of romance and these are the type of movies that are a bit of a struggle for you, I don't think this one will change your mind. So maybe you can wait for it on streaming or maybe even skip it as well. All right, that was just the high level thoughts about Materialists. Now let's go ahead and go a little bit deeper. Let's talk a little bit more spoilers about this movie. So if you do not want to be spoiled and you have not seen the movie, please jump out of the video, watch the movie, then come back, and in the comments, I always say it, leave your thoughts on that movie. That way we can talk a little bit more and discuss our opinions about Materialists. All right, I gave you guys enough time. Let's go ahead and jump into spoilers with pro number one. My first spoiler, and my first pro really, is the chemistry that Dakota Johnson has with Chris Evans, with Pedro Pascal, and even one other character that comes out in the movie. Her name is Sophie, and she's played by Zoe Winters. These three interactions and relationships are just incredible. I mean, first off, the chemistry that Dakota Johnson has with Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans is just off the charts. But they're both very different types of relationships. Again, everybody's very good looking in this film, right? So you immediately feel like, okay, those interactions are going to be very romantic. There's going to be a lot of attraction there. But it's actually, it not only feels believable that you could see Lucy in this film get with Harry or get with John, but it's also very interesting the way that these interactions play out. So let me start off with one of my favorite interactions is when Lucy starts talking to Harry about love, about what they are trying to find in their lives in regards to relationships. And it's very transactional. It doesn't feel romantic. You don't feel a magic or a love there. It's more so because both people are trying to figure out themselves and also trying to figure out, well, what is the perfect partner? So they're both, Harry and Lucy, trying to kind of check a specific box. Lucy, at that point of her life, she does not want to be broke. She wants to find somebody that is really rich. She wants to find somebody that can kind of take her around, wine and dine her, and really make her feel important and valuable. And Harry is trying to find somebody that can really teach him how to love, how to really get that magic going. And so, although they both do check the boxes of each other's checklist in regards to a partner, it never feels like it has that romance, that attraction. And although the chemistry really works, they have really great exchanges. It just never feels like it has that love that you're looking for. On the flip side, now let's take a look at the chemistry between Lucy and John. They had a relationship before, and so again, you don't see it all the way through. You have a flashback of a couple of moments that they had between each other, but their conversations are completely different. You feel more of a sadness. You feel more of this, oh, there's like a window that they had of their relationship, and they may have just missed that window. So every time they talk, there's a little bit more of a not a depressing feeling, but there's just a feeling where you want there to be some type of magic, but maybe it just can't be met. And sometimes you feel that more on John's side. John had to play more of the part of I let her go. I couldn't meet her expectations. She wanted somebody that could really give her a life of meaning and value. And Chris Evans' character of John, he couldn't do that. He was a struggling actor. And so again, both of those conversations, the chemistry was just really amazing because every interaction gave you a little bit more of a nugget, a tidbit about what that character, what they were going through in their lives, what they were trying to be, or what they were trying to figure out. And then last but not least, the chemistry between Lucy and Sophie. That relationship was also interesting because now you have a client and I guess a matchmaker trying to, they're not friends really, but you could see that Lucy really cared for Sophie. Sophie at the beginning of the movie starts off as somebody that's very hopeful. She just wants to find a partner. She's, 39. She's not old at all, but she's struggling to find somebody. And you have Lucy, who is again a famous and well-known and talented matchmaker. She's trying to do her best to find a partner, but she's not able to do it. And then all of a sudden, something happens in the middle of the story. And again, I'll kind of spoil this a little bit in a separate pro, but you then start seeing Lucy question her ability. Is she a good matchmaker? And even Sophie tells her to her face, you don't even care about me. All you care about is making a little bit of profit, a little bit of commission off of meeting two people, but you don't even care about what happens to me. And so even that dynamic is really well done. So all the dialogue, all of the different types of interactions, the way that these characters speak to each other in a romantic way, in a friendship type of way, it just works so well for me. So long-winded, I rambled, I know, but that is my first pro. And one of my favorite things about Materialists is that interaction between Lucy and all these characters that are in her life. Second pro for me, another moment where I'm going to sound like a broken record, so I'm sorry. And I feel like I mentioned this on a lot of different types of prior movie podcasts, but I really enjoyed the way that they set up the camera and the cinematography of this movie. There are a lot of great one takes that they have for each of the characters. For example, one of the specific shots that they have is the introduction of Harry, played by Pedro Pascal. Harry comes in at this wedding where Lucy is at, and you follow him all the way through. He starts in one room, then goes into the main ballroom, starts saying hi, introducing himself to other people. Everybody's eyes at this wedding is on Harry because he is a handsome bachelor, and everybody just wants to see, okay, well, who is he going to talk to? And he just roams the room. Everybody's just kind of focusing on him, and then he eventually makes his way to the bar, and he asks for a drink, and he immediately catches the attention of Lucy because Lucy's right there with a couple of women trying to recruit them and giving her sales pitch. And so I just love it when shots are just done in one entire take. It feels like a play, but it's also telling you a little bit of a story. Again, there's no dialogue happening, but you see that everybody has their eyes on Harry. What is Harry doing? What is he up to? What is he trying to do? Is he trying to show off this energy that he's a bachelor, that he's single, that he wants to meet somebody? Or is he nervous? Is he shy? The entire take of that specific shot is trying to tell you something. So I really enjoy when there's moments like that. And then there's even moments where you're kind of seeing from behind, like the head of Lucy as she's walking into rooms or walking towards Harry when they're going on a date. And again, it's just kind of giving you that perspective of, do you feel that magic? Is Lucy feeling that magic between her and Harry? And so a lot of different types of great camera shots and angles. And then let me tell you a little bit more about the cinematography because there was some great use of camera work where you have the two characters framed right dead center in the middle of a shot. That happens when Lucy and Harry on a date. You see it when Lucy and John are at a wedding. There's so many different moments where it's so pleasing. It's so perfect how the shot is framed. And what I like to almost kind of say, and I don't know if this really makes sense, but it almost feels like Celine Song and the cinematography team and everybody that's kind of working on the movie, they're very efficient. They don't want to waste anything with their shots and how they frame everything. Everything is just used for a specific reason, and there is no filler. So we just wanted to call that out, that everything in this movie just looks so clean, so aesthetically pleasing that it stuck out when I was watching the movie. All right, and then third and final pro that I want to call out for Materialist is the twist that happens in this movie. Now, again, not anything groundbreaking, but it just caught me off guard because I thought it really was going to be the central theme of, okay, who is Lucy going to go with, right? What is her decision? Is she going to decide more from a checklist and analytical perspective on a partner, or is she going to choose that special ingredient, that love? Does she feel it? Instead, there's a little added subplot in this movie where it brings back Sophie. Sophie, being matched to different types of partners, she goes on a couple of dates. She's again hopeful that she's able to find a partner. And then eventually, Lucy finds her a partner that meets her criteria, specific height, age, salary. And then what ends up happening afterwards is that Lucy tries to call Sophie to get an update on the date, doesn't get a response. She ends up finding out from her boss that Sophie ended up getting assaulted by the partner. And after that moment, you see a complete change from Lucy. She now starts to question, am I a good matchmaker? What did I do? Why did I not see the signs? And she couldn't see the signs, right? She didn't do an actual background check. She just had a conversation with the individual that went out on a date with Sophie. But she just completely felt guilty. She tried to make up for it with Sophie, and Sophie just kind of laid her cards on the table and said, you don't really care about me. How could you have put me in this position where I got assaulted by this man? And you just see the terror in Lucy's eyes. You see the pain in that you really want her to have a successful career, but now she's even debating like, am what I'm doing, is this job, is it really helpful to people? And is it really working that I try to match two people together when there is no love there? And so that little twist just made me invest in the story even more, because now I wasn't just focused on Lucy's love life and what she wanted to do for her, her romantic relationship with Harry or John. I was more invested in, well, I want her friendship with Sophie to keep going. Even though it's more of a client and matchmaker type of relationship, Lucy wanted to make sure that Sophie was happy. She wanted to make sure that, hey, look, I messed up, but that doesn't mean that I want to give up on you finding a partner. I don't want you to die alone. I want you to find somebody that you feel that will love you no matter what. And so that little twist in that story was a big highlight. And again, I'm glad that they didn't give that away in the trailer in any capacity. All right, those are all the pros I had. As for cons, I'll make this quick. I don't have any notes, no nitpicks. So let's go ahead and keep moving with some of the awards that we want to give away for Materialists. All right, let's start off with the first award for MVP. Who is that one performance that we call out that was really, I guess, a game changer in regards to what made me enjoy this movie so much? Again, 3 great performances from Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal, and Dakota Johnson. But if I had to choose one, I'm going to go with Dakota Johnson as Lucy. I talked a little bit about it before. You got to see a little bit of the range from Dakota Johnson in that she, at first, again, it was a very talented matchmaker, but then she starts questioning her own ability after the situation that happens to Sophie. And then there's also moments where you get to see her in her element when she starts talking about the analytical side of matchmaking. She almost sounds like somebody playing fantasy basketball or fantasy football. She's talking about these recruits, like she's talking about men and women, their stats. She's talking about, okay, if you want to be successful as a man in dating, you have to be this height, you have to have this salary, you have to be this, and this. It's just so crazy how she got so analytical in regards to her discussion about dating and matchmaking that it almost felt very cold, right? Because you're seeing this side of, well, that's not really dating, right? Because now you're just trying to meet a specific checklist or box. And where's the actual love to it? And so how Dakota Johnson was able to kind of explain that and go very analytical, very step-by-step on here are the successful ways to find a partner was just crazy. But then again, you get the flip side. You get her put in those positions where she's trying to decide, well, does it make sense for me to actually marry Harry? Does it make sense for me to go back to John? Which one of them gives me that feeling of feeling valuable? Again, I wanted to call that out. Very, again, long-winded, rambling, I know, but my favorite performance was Dakota Johnson because she was able to really represent various different sides of that kind of conundrum that a lot of people face, which is, what am I looking for in a partner? And even on the side of her career, what am I looking for as a career? Am I meant to be a matchmaker, or am I meant to do something else? So really good stuff from Dakota Johnson in this movie. Next award I want to give off is Best Scene. Once again, Dakota Johnson is going to be included in my favorite scene, and she actually has a great conversation with Harry when they're at a sushi bar. Again, the framing of this shot is perfect. They're both in the middle of this scene, right in the center of the frame, and they're both just having a conversation, and this is where Lucy starts explaining to Harry, you don't want to date somebody like me. I'm not going to match your criteria. And they just have this back and forth of what they're looking for. What intangibles do they want in a partner? And again, it's very transactional, not romantic in any way, yet it's so interesting and so intriguing to hear what they're both looking for, what they're trying to figure out, and both be honest with each other. So I really liked that one's respective scene of Harry talking to Lucy and just laying their entire cards on the table and being as transparent as possible. Really enjoyed that. And then as for best shot or frame of the movie that really kind of, for me, represents Materialist, I got to go with this shot in the third act where you have John and Lucy. They went to a wedding and they're both having this very intimate conversation about where they see themselves. You have Lucy that wants to rekindle that relationship, and it's John that has to kind of separate themselves. And they're both, again, center of the shot, under the lights of a little venue, and it just looks so beautiful, so crisp. So that one shot of them, separated a little bit, having a very intimate conversation, that was really awesome to me, and that is my shot of the movie. All right, everybody, that was a long pros and cons section. More pros, obviously, because I did enjoy the movie. But now here comes the important question. Is Materialist timeless? Is it a movie that I can see myself go back to and watch various different times if I'm in the mood? Although I did talk a lot of positives about this movie, I will say that as of this moment, Materialist is not a timeless movie for me. Again, I enjoyed this movie. I liked the little twist. I liked the interactions and the dynamic between Lucy and Harry, Lucy and John, Lucy and Sophie. All of that stuff, all the conversation, the dialogue, it worked for me. But I just don't think there's a lot that would get me back into it. Like, there's not like a specific element where, oh my gosh, this conversation, this dialogue is just so good that I need to rewatch the entire movie. I just didn't feel that. I also didn't feel like there was anything that was just so out of the box, so different from other romantic movies that, it doesn't set itself apart, which again, it isn't a bad thing. I'm not expecting this movie to just be so different from other romantic movies that I want it to just be, so different. Like, hey, look, this movie, better than this one, better than this one. It tops the list on romantic movies. It didn't need to do that. But because there wasn't anything that was out of the ordinary or different, it doesn't stand out. So just in my personal opinion, although I did enjoy it, although I will recommend it to other people to watch it, if you're into these types of movies, it is not timeless for me. But what do you all think about Materialist? Did you enjoy the movie? Who was your favorite performance, and what was your favorite moment in this movie? Let me know down below in the comments. That way you guys can interact with me, and I want to hear, am I way off in regards to my opinions on Materialist? I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on this movie. All right, everybody, appreciate you all that stayed all the way through to listen to my thoughts on Materialists. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 136 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out the next episode in which we will be covering a new movie that comes out this summer. We will talk about it, give our thoughts, and then decide if it's timeless. All right, everybody, appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later.